Hi, I'm Kellie Colleen. Welcome to my art class. Let's get creating.
Today we'll be making holiday trees. Alright, today we're going to be talking about 10 ways to draw a holiday tree. Before we get started on the actual drawing, we're going to do a quick warm-up for 3 to 5 minutes. I want you to take a scrap piece of paper and draw a holiday tree. Holiday can mean a Christmas tree, a Hanukkah tree, an Easter tree, a Halloween tree, whatever kind of holiday tree you'd like to draw. Go ahead and pause the video, and then you can press play again when you're finished drawing your warm-up tree. Our first way to draw a tree is to start with the stump. It's going to be tall and skinny, very narrow and pointy, and draw a small triangle to start with. After you have your small triangle, you're going to start at the tip top and fill in your triangle. Draw a line back and forth every time going back to the tip top so that all of your lines are pointing towards the top. Then you'll come a little further down, and instead of drawing a triangle, you're just going to draw 2 diagonal lines on the side. You want to come a little bit inward from the first edge of your top triangle. Same with this side. You're going to come inward a little bit and then draw a diagonal line that is pointing outwards as it goes down. Then you're going to fill this space with diagonal lines that all point towards the tip top. And I like to make mine kind of more like points or squiggles. They're all pointing towards the top. Then the next one, we're going to go to the edge but come in just a little bit and draw another outward diagonal. Same with on this side, another outward diagonal. But make sure you come in just a little bit from the edge of the one above it. Then we're going to draw our squiggles here with every squiggle pointing towards the top. We're going to do 1 or 2 more layers of this, so come in a little from the edge, draw a diagonal, in a little from the other edge, draw a diagonal, and make up and down squiggles that point to the top. If you have more room on your tree stump, you could do 1 more layer, but I have run out of room, so that is the end of my first holiday tree. Holiday tree number 2. We'll start very similar with a long, skinny stump that gets a little wider at the bottom and pointy at the top. We're going to do a very similar thing to our first tree, but backwards, because some trees have pine needles that face up towards the sky. So I'm going to start on the top and draw my first little pine needle pointing up. Then I'm going to come down a little bit. Sometimes it helps to very, very lightly draw a triangle around your tree. Very, very lightly. You might want to be able to erase it when you're done. But I'm going to come down a little bit and draw 2 diagonals pointing upward and outward. Like this. Then I'm going to fill it in the same way I filled in this one, but instead of all my needles pointing to the top, my needles are going to point down to the bottom. So I'm going to fill this in with some squigglies. It's a little hard to tell. Then I'll go down a little further and make 2 more diagonals pointing upward and outward. I want them to come to the edge of my very light triangle. After I've done that, I can do some of my squigglies to fill in the space around it. Remember, they all need to point towards the base. Then we'll go down a little further Draw 2 more diagonals pointing upward and outward that extend all the way to the edge of my very light triangle. Then I'm going to fill it in again with all my pieces pointing to the middle. After I've done that, I can go back to the top one and add a few smaller ones pointing out so my tree doesn't feel too bare. And I've made these more diagonal, and they don't go all the way to the edge, but if you wanted them to, you could. Then we'll go down a little further and repeat this process until we get to the bottom of our tree. 2 diagonals going upward and outward. Fill it in with some diagonal squiggles, and then add a couple more on the branch above. It's looking more and more like a tree as we go. I think I have room for one more, so I'm going to put one more going upward and outward. Fill it in with the squiggles that are all pointing to the bottom, and then add a couple more in the middle to fill it in. There's my second holiday tree. When you're finished with that, you can erase your triangle. For tree number 3, you might want to use a pencil because we're going to do a little bit of erasing. So you're going to start by drawing a little triangle on top. Then you're going to go inside that triangle and overlap. I'm going to start close to the top, not quite the middle, and draw a larger triangle that pokes out of that first little triangle. Then I'm going to go into my second triangle and go close to the top and draw a third triangle that is larger and pokes out of my second triangle. Then I'm going to repeat this until my tree is as tall as I want it to be. Sometimes it helps to start your next triangle at the base of your last triangle. After you have drawn as many layers as you want, you'll need to erase everything on the inside. Then you have your Christmas tree. Don't forget to add a base. Now this tree has 2 parts. You can do a very similar thing by drawing a small triangle on top, but instead of erasing the lines or drawing lines inside, you just come a little bit inward and draw the bottom half of another triangle and leave it. Then come inward again and draw the bottom half of another triangle, but don't draw the top part. This is another way to do the same tree, but instead of erasing everything on the inside, you keep your lines going across. And there's another tree. After you've done your erasing, you can go back in and fill it in with any color. Number 4 is similar to number 3, but only with a small variation. Instead of just drawing a plain triangle, you're going to draw the top part of the triangle like a normal triangle, and the bottom is going to have a curve to it like this. Then you'll go down a row, come in just a little from the edge, draw a larger triangle without drawing the top, and make the bottom curved. Then you'll do this again until your tree is as tall as you want it to be. This time you have a curve going around the tree, which makes it feel even more three-dimensional. You can even add a curve to the bottom of your stump so it feels more 3D. Tree number 5 is similar to number 4, but this time we will add a little bit of snow. You'll start with your triangular top, and instead of doing a curved bottom, we're going to do a fluffy bottom, almost like a Santa hat. But then we'll do another layer, and add a fluffy bottom. Kind of like there's snow sitting on the edge of the branches. Now you have a holiday tree with some snow on the branches. See the snow? Number 6 is kind of similar to number 5. You will still start with your triangle top, but at the bottom of each layer, you'll give some squiggles or zigzags. This will give the feeling that your tree has lots of little pine boughs hanging down. Another simple way to draw a tree is to start with a very light triangle with a rounded bottom, and then go over the top of your triangle with some lines that are kind of pointy and point down towards the ground. This will also give the feeling of lots of little pine boughs coming out. And then at the bottom, it'll stay squiggly like that. That's another way to do a pine tree. Number 8 is kind of similar but has 2 different parts. I'm going to first lightly draw my triangle. In fact, I'll draw both of them at the same time so you can see the difference. I will lightly draw my triangles. Then I will decide ahead of time how far apart to space my branches or my boughs. So I'm lightly going to draw a few curving lines on both examples of this tree. And one at the bottom. This is how I know where to make my boughs. Then I'll go back to the top, over my pencil lines, and I'm going to draw a swooping line that comes out and makes squiggly lines across where I drew my boughs or branches. So there's the first one. On the second one, I'll start back at my triangle and swoop out again, and swoop out again, and connect them with a squiggly line in the middle. For the next one, swoop again, and add your squiggly lines in the middle. And then the very last one, swoop, swoop. You want your swoop to come off of the triangle line and poke out into the edge. This will give it just a nice, interesting effect. On this one, you'll do the same thing, but instead of drawing your squiggles all the way across, you'll just do them part way in. So here's my next swoop, and I'm just going part way in. So it's almost the same idea, but the boughs don't come all the way across the tree. They only go partially across, except at the bottom, where they go all the way. Then you can erase your pencil lines. Now, our last 2 ways to draw a holiday tree are a little bit more creative. They're a little bit more on the abstract side, or stylized. Number 9 is going to have 2 versions. In one version, you have a tall, skinny stump, and then all you have to do on that stump is draw lines going across that get bigger and bigger and bigger as they go down. This is a very stylized holiday tree. For the second version of number 9, you can make yours very squiggly. Something that might help is to do that very light triangle, like this, Then you're going to do a diagonal squiggle, filling in the entire triangle from each side. So you'll start at the top, and you'll go back and forth in a diagonal till you have filled the whole triangle. Then you can erase your triangle and add your little stump at the bottom. Now that is another very stylized holiday tree. Now our last version of a holiday tree is very simple. All you need is a regular triangle. However, we are going to make this triangle very interesting. I'm going to draw multiple versions of the same triangle. With a little stump at the bottom. Sometimes you can make tall stumps, short stumps, fat stumps. This version of the holiday tree is the most creative of all. You can change the length of your stump, the width of your stump. You could change the width of your tree and make it really wide even. In fact, you can change the width of all of these trees and make each of those trees very wide or very skinny, depending on what you'd like. After you've done a few different triangle trees, the fun part about this is you can make each one have a unique pattern. So maybe in one of the trees you put polka dots. Maybe in another tree you draw zigzags. Maybe in this tree you're going to draw stripes. And maybe some swirls. What's fun about these trees is you can do them any way you like. I'm going to do a combination in this one. These kinds of trees at the bottom are called stylized trees, and these ones specifically have interesting patterns in every one. So we've gone from trees that look somewhat realistic to very basic outlines to adding different types of edges and patterns, all the way down to very stylized and patternized trees. There are a lot of ways you can draw a holiday tree. I hope you'll experiment with some of these and share some of your great creations with us online. You can check the comments below to see where to share it. Now that we've learned a lot of new ways to draw a holiday tree, let's pick one of our favorites and do the best part, decorating it. Pick your favorite design. It could be any design that you want, or invent your own design. But regardless of the tree you choose, here are a few tips for decorating your tree. If you'd like to add some garlands, a nice trick would be to think about the garland as swooping around the tree. So if you're going to add a garland, you'll pick a high point on the tree and then you'll swoop it down to a lower point. And then on top of that, the garland sits on top of the tree. It's not flat with the tree, so it's actually going to poke up off the edges on each side of the tree. And then the lower side will swoop down with it. Then you can just repeat this as you go down the tree, and it will get wider as the tree stretches. So I'm going to go a little further, start here and swoop down with a curve. That will make it feel like it's going around the tree. Then give a little bump on each side so that it feels like it's poking up off the tree, sitting on top of the tree, and finish it off with the second half of the curve. And you can do that all the way down your tree to get a nice garland effect. There's one tip. Another great tip for decorating your tree is to draw ornaments. Lots of times people have little circular ornaments, and something that can make your tree look even better is to start with slightly smaller ornaments on top, and then to let your ornaments get a little bit bigger and bigger as they go towards the bottom. Then they will fill the space better and it will look really cool. If you want to add the little hooks on top, you can, but it's not necessary. Here are a couple other ornament ideas you could do. Some ornaments are rounded in the middle, but have pointy tops and pointy bottoms. So this is a type of ornament you could design. Sometimes they have decorations around the middle, but that's a lot of little details. Sometimes ornaments are long and pointy like that, but with extra details, like a bump, and then another bump, and then another bump. You could design all kinds of ornaments to put on your tree if you'd like to. Some people like to put a star on top of their tree. If you need a simple way to draw a star, start with a point, draw a line going diagonally to the right, heading down, then draw another diagonal line almost straight up, almost, but leaning to the left a little bit, and then another diagonal down to the left a little bit, a diagonal up to the right, and then connect in the middle. Sometimes that can even be too complicated, so a way to make that easier is to start with a skinny triangle, and then a crisscross just like it was a letter A. Then take the edge of your right crisscross to the bottom point of your triangle on the left, and the left tip of your crossing bar to the bottom right point of your triangle. That's another way to form a star. Then you can erase the middle if you'd like to. Now, if you'd like to create a Star of David, you can do that by putting two interlocking triangles, one facing up and one facing down. Here's the facing up triangle, and here's the facing down triangle. Sometimes it takes a little practice to get it just right. This is a common star to use for Jewish traditions. Other things you could put on your tree are little lights. Sometimes little lights are shaped like this. And they glow, but it would be a lot of work to draw a lot of those teeny tiny little lights on the tree. You could if you'd like to try, but another thing I like to do is just use my colored pencil and make little circles of light throughout the tree. And then when I color my tree in, I don't color those parts because I want those to feel like they're glowing. There are all kinds of other decorations you could add to a tree. For example, candy canes are common in some traditions. It's an old tradition, but some people used to add tinsel to a tree, and they just look like falling bits of glitter. Sometimes people will add little branches or twigs poking out of their tree, or little birds in a little nest. I've also seen lots of people put bows in their tree, or even a bow on the tip top. Some people like to put an angel on the top of their tree. Everybody likes to do their tree a little bit differently. It's also common to put a tree skirt around the bottom. In order to draw a tree skirt around the bottom of your tree, you just have to draw an oval shape around the base, and then erase the part that overlaps the tree. We could put a tree skirt around all of these trees. Some people don't use tree skirts at all, but might use a tray or a box. You can draw a small oval with a diagonal shape on each side and an oval shaped, a curved bottom. Some people like to put their trees in something like that. So there are a lot of different options for how to decorate your tree. Now's the time for you to get creative. Pick your favorite design and style and add any decorations you want, and then color the final project. I'd love to see what you create. I'll draw a few examples of my own. I hope you enjoyed making holiday trees with me, and that you learned a lot of new ways to create a holiday tree. I hope you'll join me again for another art class. See you next time!